Fans of the bold and the beautiful, prepare yourselves for the most heart-stopping, soul-shattering twist in Forrester history as Luna Nozawa, driven by rage and desperation after her live stream stunt and failed bid to usurp Steffy's role at Forrester Creations, reaches for a gun in a moment that promises to change everything. Finn rushes forward in a blur of protective instinct, throwing himself between Luna's barrel and Steffy, only to be struck by the bullet meant for his wife. It is a scene born of vendetta and shattered trust, in which Luna, once content to wage war on social media and in corporate boardrooms, escalates her fight into violent territory, determined to annihilate every aspect of Steffy's world. She had tipped the scales with her 6-hour kidnapping ruse at the seaside park, publicly humiliating Steffy and calling her maternal fitness into question, but this time she has come armed, bullets loaded with malice, poised to end not just Steffy's career but the woman herself. Under a bruised sky at the Cliff Edge estate where Steffy and Finn had orchestrated a late-night meeting to plot their next move against Luna's encroachments, the tension had already crackled. Luna's eyes, wild with a combination of fear and determination, fixated on Steffy as she clutched her son Hayes close, vowing that if she could not break Steffy's spirit through manipulation and humiliation, she would resort to the ultimate betrayal, murder. Steffy, trembling from months of strife, had taken a step toward Luna, voice cracking but defiant, demanding to know what Luna hoped to gain by destroying every shred of dignity Steffy had fought to maintain. In that instant, Luna whispered back a single, venomous promise: "Everything you love will burn." And then she drew the weapon. The shot rang out like thunder. Finn, who had sprinted into the line of fire, caught the blast in his chest, collapsing in agony even as he cradled Steffy, his face etched with shock and pain as she screamed his name, her blood running cold. Time fractured into jagged shards. The echo of the gun, the flash of Luna's wide eyes as horror overtook triumph, Steffy's frantic scramble to drag Finn behind the stone balustrade, and Hayes's frightened wail piercing the night. The nanny, complicit up to this point, dropped to her knees, hands shaking, as she watched the scene unfold, a betrayal of her own that would haunt her forever. Sensing her advantage slipping, Luna fled into the darkness, her footsteps lost in the roar of sirens that soon filled the cliffside air. As EMTs rushed Finn into the ambulance, Steffy clung to his hand, her tears washing over his blood-soaked shirt, vowing that Luna's campaign of terror would not stop here. But for now, there was only fear, confusion, and excruciating pain, Finn's fate uncertain, Steffy's world shredded, and Hayes crying out for his father. The clifftop meadow where so many family declarations had been made now stood stained with tragedy, a silent witness to the shattering of one of daytime television's most beloved couples. In the aftermath, as the ambulance doors slammed shut and Steffy stared after it, the weight of her own vulnerability crashed over her. She had lost her protector, her partner in every sense, and faced the terrifying possibility that Jacqueline MacInnes might need to exit the canvas for a time as she anticipates real-life maternity leave. The metadrama mirrors the fictional. Fans know that Steffy will vanish from the screen, leaving Hayes in the care of Katie and Thomas, while Hope maybe steps into a more pronounced maternal role, blurring the lines between show and reality in a way only the bold and the beautiful can. Back at the hospital, Ridge and Taylor collide in the ER corridor, their own grief igniting dormant affections and resentments. Ridge's hatred for Luna boils over as he slams his fist against the glass, demanding answers and vengeance, while Taylor, torn between her loyalty to Steffy and her devotion to Finn, struggles to maintain composure as she prays for Finn's survival. Brooke bursts into Katie's office at Il Giardino, wild-eyed and accusatory, blaming Katie for letting Hayes out of her sight, reigniting the Logan sisters' fault lines and prompting Katie to confess that she had urged Steffy to trust her staff. An admission that fractures their sisterly bond just as it unites them in terror. Across the mansion, Thomas, newly aware of Steffy's plight, wrestles with guilt over his own schemes, questioning whether his relentless pursuit of power blinded him to the human cost of their Forrester infighting. Every Forrester and Logan carries a piece of this calamity, their relationships rearranged by the bullet's arc. As social media explodes with speculation, #shootout@Forrester, #pray-for-Finn, #justice for Steffy. The show's fictional universe bleeds into reality, with fans tweeting condolences, conspiracy theories, and demands that Luna be arrested immediately. Bill Spencer, sizing up the publicity, sees an opportunity to swoop in on Forrester Creations' turmoil and offers to fund an emergency design thread to distract the public, only to be rebuffed by a grieving Steffy who vows to fight this war her way. Meanwhile, Luna, on the run and wounded, emotionally if not physically, grapples with terror at what she has wrought, her grand vendetta culminating not in Steffy's downfall, but in Finn's possible demise and the scattering of the Forrester dynasty. In a final, desperate act, Luna hides Hayes' favorite teddy bear in the shadows of a nearby lighthouse, leaving a cryptic note that she may strike again if her demands are not met, a signed confession from Steffy acknowledging defeat. This cliffhanger sets the stage for weeks of suspense. Will Finn pull through surgery and survive the night, his resilience proving stronger than Luna's hatred? Can Steffy, broken but unbowed, orchestrate a counterattack from the hospital ward, rallying her allies to capture Luna before she harms Hayes again? And what sacrifices will the Forresters make to protect one another when the battle has turned so personal, so deadly? Thursday, June 19th, 2025, will mark the most unforgettable episode yet. The Forrester estate bathed in police floodlights, Steffy pacing the corridors in a hospital gown stained with her tears, Hope by her side ready to defend Hayes with every ounce of maternal ferocity, and Ridge confronting Luna at the cliff's edge as she attempts a final showdown. Viewers will watch breathlessly as Steffy, armed with a fragile hope that Finn will survive, confronts Luna one last time, her voice a cracked whisper promising that no position, no accolade, no child will ever protect Luna from the consequences of her crimes. In this heartrending saga of love, revenge, and redemption, the bold and the beautiful pushes every character to their limit, revealing that even in a world of high fashion and glittering soirees, the greatest drama is found in the fragility of human life and the bonds that hold us together. As credits roll on this seismic chapter, fans will be left asking, can any family survive such violence and betrayal? Will Steffy return stronger, or will Finn's fate leave a permanent scar on the Forrester legacy? And as Jacqueline prepares for her real-world maternity leave, how will the show honor both the actress and the character in the wake of this near tragedy? One thing is certain, nothing will ever be the same at Forrester Creations, and the echo of that single shot will reverberate through every wrinkle of the bold and the beautiful for seasons to come. As the ambulance disappeared into the night, its red lights, blinking like wounded hearts racing away from the scene of destruction, Steffy Forrester Finnegan remained rooted to the spot, cradling Hayes against her chest as though he were the last piece of her shattered world. The clamoring of paramedics, the urgent voices of Ridge and Taylor calling for updates, Taylor's hand on her shoulder offering what little comfort it could. None of it penetrated the fog of fear that had settled in Steffy's mind. In the distance, flashing patrol cars formed a cordon around the Cliff House estate, blue and white lights reflecting off the manicured hedges like so many accusing eyes. It felt as though the heavens themselves had conspired to punish her, and Steffy's world had narrowed to two truths. Hayes was safe for the moment, and Finn lay somewhere beyond, bloodied and broken on an ER gurney, fighting through every breath. Katie Logan crept to her side, her soft voice urgent yet trembling as she reminded Steffy that they needed to move Hayes to a secure location. Forrester Creations' guest quarters had been made safe by Hope Logan, who was already on her way with security to retrieve them. Months of tensions between Steffy and Hope, long brewing rivalries over creative control and personal grievances, were washed away in that moment by a shared horror. Hope arrived within the hour, her arms enveloping both Steffy and Hayes in a fierce embrace that said, "Without words, we're in this together." As they fled under police escort, the estate behind them hummed with activity. Detectives scoured the grounds for evidence. Luna's half-hidden live stream setup discovered behind a rose trellis, a single white glove stained with mud and desperation discarded near the edge of the cliff, and the nanny, trembling in the kitchen, confessing in hushed tones that she had been paid off by Luna to draw Hayes away, a betrayal that herself would never forgive. Inside the emergency ward of Los Angeles Memorial Hospital, Finn was rushed through sliding doors into a corridor flanked by nurses and doctors. Steffy trailed behind, Hayes held by Taylor on one side and Ridge on the other, each step echoing through the sterile halls like the ticking of a clock counting down to an uncertain fate. Finn's chest had taken the brunt of the bullet. Surgeons assessed internal bleeding, stabilized his vitals, and wheeled him into the operating theater where monitors beeped a frantic rhythm that paralleled Steffy's thundering pulse. In the waiting area, Brooke Logan paced like a caged lioness, her glossy hair a halo in the harsh, fluorescent light, while Katie sat beside her reciting phone numbers for the best trauma specialists, unwilling to leave until she had exhausted every avenue. When the surgeon finally emerged, blood on his scrubs and exhaustion in his eyes, Steffy collapsed against the partition, tears streaking her makeup and pooling at her feet. Ridge placed a hand on her back, steady, unyielding, and murmured that Finn had made it through the first round, that every major artery had been repaired, but the next 24 hours would determine the extent of his recovery. Steffy forced a nod, but her mind was already spiraling. How could she endure even the thought of losing him, the man who had stood by her through betrayals, boardroom battles, and personal heartbreak? The baby monitor clipped to Hayes's onesie crackled softly from Taylor's purse. Hayes, half asleep on a blanket on the floor beside them, oblivious to the storm raging around him, offering Steffy a sliver of hope that life, however fragile, persisted. While Steffy paced the hallway in a fugue of fear and resolve, Luna Nozawa found herself in a very different kind of spotlight. On the run and trapped by the gravity of her own actions, she had fled the cliff house into the winding coastal roads, her footsteps echoing with a pounding heart, the weight of the firearm, now discarded in a trash bin near a closed cafe, burning against her palm. She could not outrun what she had done. The live stream she had intended to shame Steffy had morphed into an attempted murder broadcast that, within hours, had gone viral, repurposed into news segments that decried Luna's violence and painted her as a deranged interloper who used a child as bait. As she crouched behind an abandoned lifeguard tower, tears and exhaustion streaking her mascaraed cheeks, Luna realized with a rush of icy panic that the police had a full dossier on her. Fingerprints lifted from the glove, her digital footprint on the live stream platform, witness statements from the nanny now turned state's evidence, and that Carter Walton, whom she had begged to help her disappear, had already begun to distance himself. Her phone buzzed with a single message from Carter: "I can't keep protecting you. You need to surrender." Luna stared at the screen, the words resonating like gavel strikes in her chest. But surrender meant prison, meant giving up on every dream she had built of recognition and vindication. Drawing in a shuddering breath, Luna pocketed the phone and vanished into the night, determined to find one last bargaining chip, perhaps the tape she had coerced Steffy's assistant into filming. Footage that Luna believed could still shatter the Forrester legacy if released. In the hush of the deserted beach parking lot, a lone seagull cried overhead, a reminder that freedom, like gulls in flight, was often an illusion. By sunrise, the Forrester and Logan families had mobilized into an impenetrable support network. Hope, in an uncharacteristic display of corporate acumen, arranged for security cameras to be installed in every perimeter of the estate and Forrester Creations headquarters, ensuring no further surprises. Thomas, racked with guilt over his own past betrayals, returned from a European sojourn and offered to coordinate a discreet press blackout until Finn's status could stabilize, leveraging his connections at major fashion glossies. Bill Spencer, seeing both an opportunity and a risk in the media frenzy, phoned Steffy's private line with an offer, unlimited financial backing for a new fragrance launch that would overshadow any scandal. And the promise to plant rumors casting Luna as a desperate opportunist whose violent streak would be her undoing. Steffy, standing in the hushed opulence of Finn's hospital suite after surgery, authorized him to proceed, her voice cold and determined as she promised to reclaim the narrative that Luna had tried to hijack. Meanwhile, Ridge confronted the nanny in the Cliff House kitchen, rage in his eyes as he demanded to know why she had turned on Steffy. The nanny, tears streaming, explained that Luna had threatened her family if she did not comply, revealing a darker side to Luna's manipulations that would weigh heavily in court. News outlets across the city carried the story. Forrester prints shot protecting mother, Luna Nozawa, from designer prodigy to notorious fugitive. Logan's sisters rally as Forrester air fights for life. Social media hashtags #PrayForFinn and #JusticeForSteffy trended worldwide, with fans uploading fan art of Finn in his hospital gown surrounded by rose petals and depicting Steffy as a lioness vowing vengeance. At midday, Katie brought Hayes to the ER waiting room. Steffy dropped to her knees and held him as though nothing mattered but that moment, murmuring promises to shield him from darkness and deceit. Ridge and Taylor exchanged glances, parents and grandparents bound by love and terror. And Taylor whispered that Finn's strength had always been his resilience, that he would fight through this as he had fought for his family every day. Hours stretched into an eternity until finally, Finn opened his eyes, his gaze flickering to Steffy and then to Hayes, a faint, ragged smile breaking through the tubes and bandages. Steffy pressed a kiss to his forehead, her tears falling onto his pillow as she thanked God, the universe, everything. In that instant, the Forrester matriarch felt a surge of power. They had survived the darkest test yet, but the war with Luna was far from over. Later that evening, as the hospital lights dimmed and only the quiet hum of the ventilator accompanied Finn's steady breathing, Steffy sat at his bedside with her hand entwined in his. The flickering television in the corner showed an interview with Bill Spencer, who lauded Forrester Creations' resilience and hinted at a groundbreaking fragrance reveal that would commemorate Finn's survival. Hope stood silently behind Steffy, a guardian angel in designer heels, while Ridge and Taylor lingered at the doorway, their silhouettes cast long across the polished floor. It was then that the security detail notified them that Carter Walton had been detained at LAX, awaiting interrogation for aiding Luna's escape, and that a safe was found in Luna's abandoned studio containing unedited footage of the shooting. Along with Luna's personal manifesto, a scathing indictment of Steffy's fitness as both a designer and a mother. Steffy leaned back and closed her eyes, the weight of the evidence a bittersweet victory. Luna's capture was imminent, but the fallout would linger in boardrooms, tabloids, and perhaps even in Finn's fractured chest. Her vow of revenge transformed into a promise of justice, no matter how cold or calculated. Every evidentiary shred would be presented to ensure Luna faced the maximum sentence. As the chapter closed on this violent crescendo, the Forrester saga set its sights on the next act. Steffy's temporary absence from the fashion house to care for Finn and Hayes would open the door for Hope, or another rising star, to assume the helm, creating fresh rivalries and alliances in the couture battlefield. Thomas, emboldened by his role in steering Forrester Creations through crisis, would grapple with his own ambitions. Could he resist the urge to seize power, or would the collaboration born of tragedy give way to old patterns of duplicity? Ridge and Taylor, standing shoulder to shoulder, would confront new choices about their relationship, their family, and the fragility of happiness in a world where one bullet could upend everything. And Luna Nozawa, behind bars but unbowed, would plot her next move from a cell that felt more like a chrysalis, for she believed that, like a dark butterfly, she would emerge once more to stake her claim on Steffy's throne. The cameras may have cut to black on June 19, 2025, but the echoes of that single gunshot would resonate through every steamy rendezvous, corporate maneuver, and whispered secret at Forrester Creations for seasons to come, reminding every character that in the ruthless world of high fashion and higher stakes, survival belongs to the most daring, the most determined, and the most unafraid to draw blood in defense of family.
Oh.